Real fans don't just complain, they care enough to find answers. And that's what we are doing today on Locked On A's.
You are Locked On A's, your daily podcast on the Athletics, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, the #1 sports podcast network. My name is Booney, one name, all passion, no sugarcoating. I'm a lifelong A's fan who has spent the past season covering this team every single day. Post-game breakdowns, prospect deep dives, roster decisions, and all the chaos in between. And in the offseason, we are still covering the A's every single day. I don't show up with corporate talking points or highlight reel cliches. I show up with honesty, edge, and the perspective of someone who refuses to let this team be treated like an afterthought. If you want blind optimism, look elsewhere. If you want truth, fire, and a voice that actually cares, welcome to Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team, your A's, every single day. On today's Locked On A's, we are introducing the Clubhouse. The Clubhouse is a new weekly gathering where A's fans don't just watch from the stands, they get in the game every week. Real fans join for an unfiltered roundtable discussion, diving deep into the issues that matter most to A's Nation. This isn't about hot takes from talking heads who've never bought a ticket. It's about passionate, knowledgeable fans who live and breathe the green and gold. Whether we are breaking down roster moves, debating the team's direction, or tackling the big questions facing the franchise, the Clubhouse is where honest conversation happens. It's raw, it's real, and it's the voice of the fan base finally getting the platform it deserves. From Sacramento to Vegas and everywhere in between. If you bleed A's baseball, this is your show. Welcome to the Clubhouse, where fans just don't talk about the team, they help shape the conversation. We have Brian, Coach Fonz Fonseca from Sacramento, lifelong A's fan. Aaron Cameron from San Diego, grew up watching the A's since '81. And of course, the salty one, Salty Tom from Salt Lake City. And we have an incredible show ahead of you. Potential lockout at the end of 2026. Will baseball go dark? And will it affect the fans? We'll cover that a bit later. Are we a buyer or seller of hope in 2026? I'll get everyone's opinion in just a few minutes. And first, the 2026 athletic roster as it looks today. What needs to get better? We got solutions. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you will get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Aaron, 2026, as the roster looks right now, what are your concerns going into the 2026 season? Spring training is about 3-4 months away. As far as what you saw from last year going into next year, where does this team need to improve?
Well, let's be honest here. I think the most obvious spots are second base and third base. The A's ran a cavalcade of talent through both of those positions. And to be very, very clear, I'm absolutely a buyer on Max Muncy. I think he is going to be a 20, 25 home run guy, 60, 70, 80 RBI guy. I'm not sure the average is going to be where you want it to be, but the injuries obviously hampered him in the second half. I think he's definitely going to fill one of those spots, most likely third. I think he was a little bit better defensively there, but the A's got to find somebody else in that infield. You look at the list of free agents. If they want to pursue a third baseman, there's a Eugenio Suarez from the Mariners, 34 years old. The defense is on the decline, but the bat still plays. And if you can get him on, say, a 2-year deal, I think that's a good thing. One of the dark horse guys out there, he's bounced around a lot. Adam Frazier, formerly the Royals, formerly the Padres, formerly the Pirates. Let's be very, very clear here. He's a 1-win player, 1.2 win player by BWAR the last 3 or 4 years. He's absolutely a stopgap guy. You got the mutant down in AA right now who is knocking on the door. If I had to pick one spot where I think it's most obvious for improvement, it's one of those, that second base, third base spot. And I think that there might be some buy low opportunities out there for the A's they can bring in, as they've done in the past, whether it was with Aledmus Diaz or Ursula last year. You know, they kind of find those guys, bring them in. They don't always succeed. They don't always hit like you want them to do, but you just kind of need someone to kind of fill that space. And there's opportunities out there for the A's to do that this year.
Aaron, you mentioned 2 big infielders that have a big, vast difference as far as signing. Question is to you, who would you rather have? Would you want to spend, let's say, 2 years, $36 million on a Eugenio Suarez, or would you like to take a flyer on an Adam Frazier?
If I had the purse strings, honestly, I might actually be more inclined to take an Adam Frazier guy. He's going to be cheaper, obviously, which means theoretically you could spend that money elsewhere, whether it's, say, in starting rotation for a stopgap guy, maybe for a back-end closer. There's a lot of guys who just hit the market through non-tenders and such. If you're looking for just kind of, the process, the parts of the process, maybe a Frazier would be a better fit. I know how counterintuitive that sounds, but from where the A's are going and how they're building, it might make a little bit of sense.
Coach Fonz, what do you got?
Man, I love it. Aaron's like the GM moving in there. I love it. He's taking care of second and third. I too am kind of big on Muncy. I always felt watching him early, he just has always looked like a pro. He might be a platoon guy, but I think he's going to hit eventually. So he's interesting. But I'm going to move. I'm going to say, man, bolster that bullpen. Find a great right-handed arm. Find a great left. The guys pitch really well at the end of the year. A little different, though, I think, when you're going to be the hunted. I would bolster that bullpen. Again, I'd look for a righty, a lefty. You've got to get a guy to get 3 outs now. So it's got to be a guy that can pitch. That's where the game has really changed. You just can't get a lefty come in and get one arm. You got to be able to get through 3 or 4, maybe 5 hitters. So I'm bolstering at the bullpen, but I can tell you, Aaron kind of mentioned, I've got one eye on DeVries, on how's he doing, and I've got another eye on your guy, I think, Booney, Jamie Arnold. So I want to bolster that bullpen because I think if Arnold and DeVries hit, man, Kurtz is just going to say, jump on my back, fellas, and let's roll. So I think there's a lot of play, but I'm really convinced. Get that bullpen fortified. Now that may mean you pick up a guy that can start or be a swing starter, but I say get that pen. To me, the hardest thing is to close out games, and I think the A's are going to find that early because nobody's going to be looking past them. They're not going to be lovable anymore. I think they're going to be hunted from the start, and it reminds me a lot of '88. I mentioned these guys. There's a lot of young guys in the room. '87, the team got better. Canseco kind of came on. And then '88, they had a great year, except for that little series with the Dodgers at the end of the year.
Salty, I want to follow up on what Coach Fonz just said. And he's talked about the bullpen. And part of me agrees, yeah, sure, we need some bullpen arms. Who doesn't? But at the same time, the last 2 months of the season, we had one of the top bullpens in all of baseball. Where do you see we need help in 2026?
This is a critical offseason for the team. They could do nothing, and I think maybe just barely miss out on the wild card, maybe win 82 games. But I think there is an opportunity. So, yes, we are waiting for DeVries, Jamie Arnold, Gage's jump. So I know there's reinforcements coming, young talent coming. But I do think with sort of the right stopgap guys that we can push 90 wins. My goal is the division title. I cannot stand the Mariners. I love watching their fans cry. In fact, remember Brian Woo's being interviewed? And then in the background, you hear J-Rod scream in agony. That was a beautiful moment. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no question.
Well, I'm only half kidding. And so I do feel like there are a couple key things we can do. The lineup I'm not as worried about because 1 through 6, they're already solid. So, maybe we have Muncy 7, Brett Harris 8, Denzel Clark 9th. It would be great to bring in like a Geno Suarez. I would love that. or a Polanco, or maybe like a Frazier. I love all those. And I think Frazier is realistic. And I think Gino, if it's possible, I say go for it. Why not get greedy? But I do agree. I think the bullpen and the rotation should be the key. I think it's going to be hard to move Severino. So I think we can assume that the rotation looks like Severino, Springs, maybe Lopez, and Morales. I'm not completely sold on JT Ginn and some of these others in Hoglund and whatnot. So if they could maybe move not their top prospects, but maybe move a couple guys and bring in maybe a little bit of salary, bring in a guy like Sonny Gray, or maybe bring in I'm all for going for the moon and grabbing like a Joe Ryan. But if we could just get someone who is a reliable veteran, that'll be much better than rolling the dice for the number 5 spot. And in terms of the bullpen, I would like to get Leclerc off the books. And I would love to bring in like a Helsley. I think that would be fantastic. I have a lot of faith in Kelly, Newcomb, Harris, and Alvarado. I think they did a great job, and I think they've sort of found their roles and found the groove. If we can add just a proven reliever, to that bullpen, and with the experience we gained. Now, personally, I think that horrific 1-20 stretch was a good thing because they didn't become the Angels and try to compete, last year and sort of give up the future, right? I think that little stretch kind of let them, plan for the future, right? And I think the team learned what not to do from that 1-20 stretch. So I think guys like Ferguson learned what not to do. And so I have more faith in the bullpen now than I did last year.
Guys, for the last 2 seasons, the best part of the season has been the off season because we have finished so strong in the last 2 years, which has me contemplating, and as I have said in the past, are we optimistic or are we cautiously optimistic? Let's get into that. Up next. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you for making Locked On A's part of your everyday routine and your first listen. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you are not yet an everydayer, please hit that subscribe button. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. If you do reside in the state of Nevada, we are on Monday through Friday at 12:30 p.m. on Silver State Sports and Entertainment, Digital Channel 5.2, and Cox Cable Channel 77. Salty, finishing the last couple months in Fuego, Nick Kurtz, Jacob Wilson, runner-up in Rookie of the Year, Nick Kurtz winning the Rookie of the Year. I still can't help thinking about the hype going into the team to start 2025 and what happened. So yeah, I share your guys' optimism, excitement, but I can't help to be a little cautiously optimistic as well. Where do you stand?
Yeah, if I could real quick, I think 2025 was a smashing success. Nick Kurtz, Wilson, 76 wins, even Morales came up and shined. So I was hoping for a 5-game improvement. And we got, I think a 7-game improvement last year. For 2026, I think they're currently a 500 team. I personally want to see a couple, 2 or 3 strategic signings or trades. I really want to see 85 wins. Maybe I'm a little bit bullish, but I think the talent is there. The offense, 1 through 6, they're amazing. I remember that last series in Boston, the Red Sox announcers, they just kept going on and on about that A's lineup and all the power they had. I think the lineup is okay. I think if they can just add a couple pieces to either the rotation and or bullpen, I do expect 85 wins.
Aaron, as being a lifelong A's fan, the tradition with regard to the A's in spending in the offseason. I mean, we just got to be realistic about it. And I love hearing about Joe Ryan and Eugenio Suarez and adding pitching and adding this and adding that. But also we have guys like Tyler Soderstrom and Nick Kurtz and Jacob Wilson. I'm hoping we extend. As the roster shapes up right now, I agree. I think it's around a 500 roster. What is your idea going into 2026?
Well, I mean, I think the answer to your first question is, well, why not both? The A's set a precedent last season, signing Rooker, signing Lawrence Butler. They want to lock up these young guys. They're obviously building towards 2028 in Vegas. And I think Tyler Soderstrom is absolutely next in line. Maybe not Kurtz, maybe not Wilson. They might be a year away from that type of extension. But we're not talking relative big bucks here, right? Butler signed, I think, for $67 million through his arbitration years, which is absolutely reasonable, absolutely affordable. Soderstrom, much to my shocking surprise, just became a Gold Glove finalist in left field, and after a bit of a malaise in the summer with his bat, just took off. That kid is legit. Get him locked up. And as far as free agency goes, I'm not naive. They're never going to play in the deep end of the pool while they're playing in a minor league stadium. I get that. But we talked about Suarez. We talked about Frazier. I think Tom or Fonz mentioned Polanco, who I think is another legitimately affordable signing. They're in this really weird space, Booney, where they're on that cusp of contending, that cusp of playoff caliber, where they don't necessarily need that big, incredible Hulk free agent splash. They just kind of need guys to kind of get them there. I remember, if you remember the 2012 team, that team that nobody really expected much of, they brought in Bartolo Colon, who was the ace of that rotation. They got Josh Reddick via trade, who had that huge 10 home run May, and they just kind of rode that wave. They just kind of need to find the right pieces. And, again, Forrest, it's not really been something he's been good at recently. So, again, Tom talked about it. Fonz talked about it. You talked about it. This is just a immensely critical offseason for them to get it right.
Coacher, floor is yours.
Man, I'm pushing the chips in, Booney. I'm pushing in with the caveat. I think Kurtz is the guy that makes this whole thing go. And I will add this because names have came up. I think Soderstrom and Rooker love having Kurtz because the pressure was off them a little bit. And now they can just play. I mentioned Soderstrom was a great job by our GM Aaron there. But I thought those two guys really came out. And I forgot about Clark. His speed too.
Yeah.
So I am pushing all in with that caveat that Kurtz, if he were to get hurt, he just seems to have that. You mentioned Bartolo Colon and those guys. I think they're just some guys people like. And Kurtz just seems that likable, lovable. Hey, jump on. So I'm all the chips are in, Booney, but I think he is such a key, and it all pivots around him. I mean, you could start to say all those pieces added, but when did the A's get going? When Kurtz got going. Kurtz hurts, baby. Kurtz hurts. And I just think he's just one of those guys. And now I haven't seen him close enough. Aaron, maybe you guys have it, Salty. He just seems to also be a little bit of a duck, like nothing seems to get him. I don't remember, Booney, we talked about earlier. I thought he injured himself sliding. It's like, don't slide, big fella, don't slide. He just seems lovable and good, and he's got that Reggie Jackson, Babe Ruthian thing about him. I'm all in. I think this team has got a chance to do something. I hope the dang vibe in Sacramento changes and people, really have some fun with this group, because I think if they start to feel some love, they'll get back to that swaggy. So yeah, I'm in. I love these guys, but I'm in, Booney. Let's throw the table. Hit the ATM. I'm in.
Gentlemen, I love the absolute mood, the excitement, and I hate to be the party pooper, but unfortunately, got some news coming up next about the end of 2026. And will baseball go dark? Up next. I encourage you to keep the conversation going with me after the show over on X. You can find me at Locked On A's or in the YouTube comment section. You could also find me on Instagram at Locked On A's. Coacher, end of 2026, the existing CBA expires. A lot of talk about a hard salary cap. Will a 2027 strike or lockout affect you as a fan?
I'm a common man. I think with all the media and social media, I don't think it can. I think we're going to hear this till the very end. There's too much at stake. You've got the whole Shotani. I don't think they can. I think Major League Baseball, they just had a great World Series.
Yeah.
I don't know if they can. I didn't want to say shoot the foot, but I got to stay away from gun terminology here. But I think the fact that, I think there's so much riding on it. If they can, I think it would be a media nightmare. And I know when the strike happened, I walked away for a long time. I didn't really get back into baseball until the A's won that playoff game against the Yankees. I think Huddy was pitching. I think they've got too much going on. They just can't. If they do, I just think young people, they would just get blown up as greenmongers. I think it's going to be a late. That's just me. I just think they have too much at stake. And with this great World Series, how can they not build on that momentum? So I really don't think it'll happen. If I did, I think it would be such a turnoff. But we'd all be back a week later, probably. So I don't know. But that's my gut. I think it'll be resolved towards the end.
Salty Tom, with the World Series completely outdrawing the NBA Finals from the year before by quite a bit, it seems like there's been a big turnaround in MLB baseball. Two-part question. Will there be a strike, lockout? And secondly, will it affect you as a fan?
So I agree with Coach. I think that there's so much goodwill and good momentum. We have these great ratings. We have Otani. I think they'd be ridiculous to do it. However, I've seen this horrific pattern of owners being short-sighted, trying to grab, a quick win. And for example, the whole regional sports issues, all the blackouts and whatnot, all these owners, want to try to grab money now instead of, expand the sport and maybe make it more accessible. So normally I would say these are billionaires and they should have enough common sense to avoid a lockout. However, just this pattern of short-sightedness, I am very cautiously, only because I hope it won't happen, optimistic. If there is a strike or a lockout, once again, because I'm such a fan and because I'm a sucker for punishment, I'll just come back. However, the regular fan won't, and it'll be a disaster if it gets to that point. So I certainly hope they have some common sense.
Aaron, can you tell me, in your personal opinion, what are the consequences of a potential strike? Do you see one happening? Will it affect you?
I think there absolutely will be a lockout after 2026. I think the owners have been filling their war chests through these obnoxious sponsorships, these ridiculous money grabs, the ways to just kind of fill their coffers. And I think that's absolutely happening. I wish I could be more optimistic, but there is enough, respectfully, there's enough gray hair and receding hairlines on this podcast to remember 1994.
Yeah.
Major League Baseball, in the middle of their 125th anniversary season, torpedoed the World Series. And with the Expos and the Red Sox and the Cubs and the Yankees all contending, which you would think would be just a opportunity for them to bask in the glory of themselves. They will shoot themselves in the foot. Owners will shoot themselves in the foot to get the salary cap. And I think that this is the most consequential CBA negotiation since Marvin Miller's heyday, and I think it's going to shape the game for a generation. The owners are dead set on a salary cap, and the players are dead set against it. And I worry, Booney, that the players may have overplayed their hand a little bit. They brought the minor leaguers into the unionship fold. So what you're going to get after 2026 are hundreds of guys who are really going to miss that paycheck when that lockout hits. And if they're pressuring leadership to accept a bad deal, a salary cap, I think we might get that. But to circle back to your original question, how will it affect me? I'm going to echo my man Fonz. I'm going to echo my man Tom. I'm going to come back. I always do. I came back in 81. I came back in 85. I came back in 90. I came back in 94. All these strikes and lockouts. It's not fun. I miss the game, but I love it too much. I'm the worst guy to ask this question to because I will always come back.
My 2 cents on the potential lockout is I think the owners are posturing hard right now. I think when the case back in 94, I believe it was, with regard to the salary cap went to court and got denied, I don't think the owners, I think deep inside the owners know they will not get a salary cap. I believe they're posturing. There's 6 other major type of issues, such as expansion with regard to the playoffs, with regard to with regard to a higher luxury tax, so forth, and a few other issues. I believe the owners know they're going to give that up, the salary cap, but I believe they're setting it up. They want everything else. If they get everything else, I think we're going to be okay. But I don't know if it's going to be that easy. I don't know if it's going to be that easy. Gentlemen, thank you for this week of the Clubhouse. And we'll be back again next week with a whole new set of topics to talk some A's and what's going on in the future. Thanks again, fellas.
Good night, guys.
Thanks for making Locked On A's part of your day. If you have not done so, please subscribe, like, and comment. All of those things will help grow this community for A's fans to find more easily. Now, for your second listen, check out Locked On MLB. Your pal Sully breaks down the most exciting teams in all of Major League Baseball, from off-season moves to the beginning of spring training and everything in between. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks again, and I will see you all tomorrow.